via Zoom. Unfortunately, we had anticipated and hoped we would be able to have a live audience in the council chambers in the town hall, but unfortunately, as we all know, we went into lockdown and it wasn't possible, but fingers crossed we will make it next month also. Firstly, can council acknowledges the traditional owners of these lands, waters and skies, the Wadawurrung people. We acknowledge and respect their continuing connections to their lands, waters, skies, culture and the contribution they make to life and the spirit of our community. We pay respect to their past and present elders and their emerging leaders and extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples tonight. Mr. CEO, we have all councillors present. We have no apologies that I'm aware of.
No apologies, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors, do we have any pecuniary interest or conflicts of interest disclosures? I see no, all shaking heads. I would like, as in the past, to declare that I do have a conflict of interest in regard to, in the planning report, in regard to Queen C33, 81 Nelson Road, and also item 2020-046, 61 to 75 Murray Road, due to the close location to my principal place of residence. So I'll take that. Officers, any conflicts from the officers?
Not that we're aware of, Mr. Mayor.
No. Thank you. And we have no leave of absence of councillors. Public question time, item number 5. Public question status update, no public questions outstanding. Public questions, we do have 5 public questions received by council within the prescribed timeline, so I will read them out and answer those. Question 1 is from Lauren Salter. The question is, I would like to submit the following question with respect to the proposed bike track park being located on the old school grounds. Have you satisfied yourself in any way that this proposal is a coastal dependent activity? To answer that, and thank you, Lauren, for your question, proposed developments and uses of Crown land within 200 metres of the high water line are subject to a range of considerations during the planning phase, one of which is coastal dependency. Due to most of the Crown land in the borough falling within this threshold, council regularly works with the Victorian government to balance our community's needs for recreational facilities with strategies to manage and protect coastal land. Such features include walking trails, barbecues, sporting ovals, public toilets, and playgrounds, as well as cycling infrastructure. While none of these facilities depend on their coastal location, they meet important needs of residents living in coastal spaces and are therefore regularly approved for development. A design of any future bike park will consider the environment and its location as a key aspect of the design. We're looking forward to working with residents on this particular detail as the investigation into a possible bike park progresses. Thank you, Lauren. Question number 2 is from Carmen Bell. Question reads, could council clarify what constitutes a dwelling in the Queensland planning scheme? The answer, Carmen, is all planning schemes in Victoria define a dwelling as follows. A building used as a self-contained residence must include a kitchen sink, food preparation facilities, a bath or shower, and a toilet and wash basin. It includes outbuildings and works normal to a dwelling. Public question number 3 is from Keith Stowers. The council website indicates that the Hesse Street upgrade project is almost complete. No proposed finish date, however, is nominated. The works in progress adjacent to the RSL could be deemed as potentially impacting public safety. Accordingly, is the project running on schedule? If this is not the case, what issues have caused its delay? Is the project running to budget? If this is not the case, what issues have led to the cost overrun and how is this being funded? Thank you very much, Keith. The Hesse Street construction works were mainly completed on target before Christmas, with the exception being the new shared pathway on the east side, which has been delayed due to water main renewal works required by Barwon Water. This work required the water main to be shut down and has been deferred due to the inconvenient timing of doing a shutdown over the busy summer period. The water main works are now scheduled to be done on 22nd of February, which will then allow completion of the shared path in the following couple of weeks. The project is within the current budget, which was adjusted to cater for the unforeseen changes, including the necessary water main relocation. Funding for the project has come from three sources, being federal government roads to recovery funding, state government fixing country roads funding, and council's asset renewal funding. Thank you very much, Keith. Question number 4, public question, is from the QCA. The preamble reads, no doubt council has been the recipient of many pieces of correspondence on the proposed bike park sited at the high school site, as per council information and survey. It is the community understanding council motions supporting a botanical gardens are still endorsed, and questions relate to why council or its officers have promoted another project in contravention of the existing council motions. The widespread community support for open space and a powerful reinstatement of such goals and visions in the just completed engagement of the new coastal management plan. David has sent through 2 questions. I'll read the first question and answer that, and the second question we will respond to the QCA in writing. The question reads, can it be explained who authorised the new project initiative and how much council time and costs have been incurred in scoping this project, and whether any councillors have participated in assisting to action or support this proposal? Council received hundreds of ideas, suggestions and comments from our community as part of this initial round of consultation for a possible bike park in the borough. We want to thank everyone who shared their ideas, and we're looking forward to sharing the results and the next steps for the investigation with you soon. The initial consultation is the first of a 3-stage consultation process to develop a design for a possible bike park in the borough. The first stage was designed to collect ideas about what a bike park might look like and where it might be located, including seeking feedback on the development from the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning. Suggestion for the park's location. The feedback we received will help us select a possible location and a concept design for the park based on community ideas. Council first announced it would be investigating the development of a bike park in July 2020 after closing informal bike tracks in Point Lonsdale to protect sensitive vegetation. A bike park will help us protect sensitive areas over the long term while also supporting a popular local sport among borough residents. Council has spent $528 to cover the costs of consultation advertising. Question number 5 is public question from David Conley. Can council explain its intentions or future plans on the bull ring at Shortlands Bluff with the removal of its memorial and highly significant World War II trees that provided an important landscape element to the precinct, and how it intends to maintain a sense of remembrance on this heritage listed site? David, the 3 cypress trees recently removed at the bull ring were assessed by an independent arborist as posing a significant risk to public safety and recommended for removal. While council has attempted to prolong the life of these trees by removing public access to root zones and regularly inspecting their health, public safety requires that these trees be removed because it was the only option that eliminated all potential public risk. Council will work with the community and Heritage Victoria to determine the appropriate tree replacement plan. Council has no intention to develop a further plan for the bull ring itself. So thank you very much for all those questions. Item 6, confirmation of council minutes. 6.1, ordinary council meeting on the 16th of December 2020. There is a recommendation there that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council of the Borough of Queenscliff held on 16 December 2020 as distributed be confirmed as an accurate record. That's moved by Councillor Hewitt, second by Councillor Salter. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Item 7 is the record of assembly of councillors. Record of assembly for the following assemblies of council are included at adjunct to item number 7. There is a recommendation that the record of assembly of councils as presented in adjunct to item 7 be noted. Can I get someone move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Salter, seconded by Councillor Hewitt. All those in favour? Thank you. Notice of motion. Notice of motion status update. We have no motions of notice outstanding. 8.2 motion on notice. No notices of motion were received. Item 9, petitions and joint letters. 9.1, petitions and joint letters. In accordance with the Borough of Queenscliff governance rules, a petition or joint letter presented to the council must lay on the table until the next ordinary meeting of council, and no motion other than to receive the petition or joint letter may be accepted by the chairperson unless the council agrees to deal with it earlier. Item 9.1.1, petition against the proposed bike park on the old high school site. I will read out the petition. Council received a petition addressed to the Mayor and Councillors, Borough of Queenscliff Council, consistent with the Division 9 of the Governance Rules. The petition is now tabled for Council's information. The petition reads as follows. Petition against the Queenscliff Borough's Council proposal to develop a bike park on the old high school site. To the Mayor and Councillors, Borough of Queenscliff Council, we the undersigned residents, ratepayers and friends of Queenscliff question the presumption that a bike park should be relocated at the old high school site and request the council reconsider the project. Our reasons for this request include: one of Queenscliff's key characteristics is its low-key historic profile, which is important to residents, visitors and businesses alike. This attribute differentiates the town from other Bellarine and Surf Coast destinations, and it should be carefully maintained and encouraged. A bike park at the primary entry point to the township does not enhance Queenscliff's acknowledged heritage values. The high school site forms an iconic entrance to Queenscliff, with important vistas through to Swan Bay and eastward along the Avenue of Honour and Memorial Garden. A bike park at this site does not align with the ongoing work to restore and promote these two heritage memorials. The council has already undertaken extensive community consultation about the high school site, resulting in a 2014 grant funding application to make the area into parkland with community gardens. This is the council resolution, which is still valid. Much of the site is located within 200 metres of Swan Bay, so the Victorian Government's marine and coastal policy will apply. The policy clearly states that unless a facility needs to be located close to the coast, it should not be. Open space adjacent to the coast is under constant pressure, and the bike park proposal would continue to the loss of undeveloped land, whereas the policy encouraged the remediation and landscapes where possible. The proposal appears to lack any environmental impact assessment, despite Swan Bay's high environmental values. The proposed bike park is very close to house, and if the facility becomes an attraction, it will be difficult to manage amenity problems such as noise, parking and traffic, particularly over the busy summer period. The council has not established the budget nor undertaken any options analysis which establishes the underlying need for a bike park and evaluates alternatives within the agreed parameters. As such, the project should be reconsidered to examine the drivers for the bike park, and this should be proven. Further community consultation to determine an appropriate location. The petition was signed by 101 people. Following review of the petition, council officers identified all signatories as coming from Point Lonsdale and Queenscliff, including those who live in Point Lonsdale within the municipal boundary of the City of Greater Geelong. So thank you very much for the petition. Councillors, we do have a recommendation there from the officers. Councillor Salter?
So I have a different motion that I'd like to propose.
So different from the recommendation. Yes, Councillor Salter? Yep.
Yes. All right. So my motion is this, that council receives the petition and the petition lays on the table until the 24th of March 2021. That council notes the consultation for the first stage of the investigation for a proposed bike path is completed and report on the outcome, and the report on the outcome will be publicly available shortly.
So that's your motion. Yep, thank you. Councillors, do we have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Any discussion, councillors? No discussion. Thank you. All those in favour? Okay, thank you. So carried. Thank you. So, Councillor Griggar, were you in favour of that? I didn't see your hand up. Okay, we'll move on. Item 10, functions attended. The list is there before you, councillors, all the functions that are attended since our last council meeting. The office recommendation that the functions attended report be received. Can I get someone to move that?
Mr. Mayor, can I move that? But can I do changes?
Yes, you can.
If you can remove, on the 22nd of January, remove Councillor Grout, and then that's the relaunch of the upgraded Port Arlington Police Station. And could you put Councillor Grout and Councillor Salter as attending the Point Lonsdale Civic Association AGM on the 8th of January?
Certainly. Thank you, Councillor Grout. Do we have the seconder for that motion with the changes? Seconded, Councillor Hewitt. Any discussion, councillors? No. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Item 11, community wellbeing. 11.1, event sponsorship. I will hand over to our Economic and Community Development Program leader, Shannon Maloney. Thank you, Shannon, for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, councillors and officers. Tonight I present to you a report that summarises the assessment of applications received for event sponsorship this year for events held up to 15th of December. I take that the report has been read by you, and I also thank you for receiving additional information regarding the potential expenditure of how some of the grants would be spent for applications number 2 and 3. The report aims to facilitate and support the conduct of public and community events. The event sponsorship program is available twice a year, and event sponsorship may fall into one of 3 categories: local, minor and major. Round 1 of the event sponsorship program opened in December, and 4 applications were received, and 3 applications were subsequently assessed and met their criteria. Council has a budget of $20,000 for discretionary allocation, and the officer recommendation to council is to accept the assessments as presented and determine an allocation of funding for the 3 applications presented, 1 being a local event, Bronze Off the Wall, 2, a minor event, People's Print Prize, and 3, a minor event, Blues Train Revival Concert Series. And secondly, request the Chief Executive Officer to enter into an event sponsorship agreement with the successful applicants, subject to the event applicant meeting any event management permits, if applicable, including at the event can operate within mandated COVID-safe regulations and practices. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Sorry, councillors, we have a recommendation there.
Sorry.
Yep. Councillor Griggar, yep.
Yes, I recommend the council moves the motion to allocate the following funds to the events: the Grommet Off the Wall, $2,000. The minor event People's Print Pies, $4,000, and the minor event Blues Train Revival Concert Series, $3,000 only.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Grigor. Do we have a seconder for that motion? That's seconded, Councillor Hewitt. Any discussion, councillors? No, if no discussion, I will put it to the vote. All those in favour with that motion? Thank you very much. So carried.
Thank you.
You can stay on screen, Shannon.
Thank you.
Item 12, local economy, the Queenscliff Economic Development Advisory Committee. We're in your hands again, Shannon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to review the role of the Queenscliff Economic Development Advisory Committee and determine an appropriate mechanism for receiving input from the community regarding strategic economic development. In summary, Council has had a Tourism and/or Economic Development Advisory Committee in place to provide strategic advice to Council on economic development related issues on behalf of the borough's business community. A major project of this committee was to develop a 3-year economic development strategy, and this plan was achieved and adopted by Council in 2017. Recently, the committee have held workshops to debate, question and identify the ongoing role of the committee and to investigate and analyse its relevance and effectiveness as an advisory body to Council. In recent months, Council adopted a community engagement policy that identifies methods to achieve broader community engagement rather than restricting involvement to a small group of individuals. The committee is seeking guidance from Council in regards to its ongoing role and function, and clarity on how the wider business community can have input into the future strategic direction. I present a recommendation to the Council that Council disband QEDAC, the Queenscliff Economic Development Advisory Committee, and use a broader based community consultation to obtain input on economic development, which is in line with Council's community engagement policy and the intent of the Local Government Act 2020. Secondly, formally write to the members of QEDAC to thank them for their commitment and insights as a committee member. And thirdly, encourage the committee members to participate in the upcoming Council plan engagement process. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Councillors, do I have someone?
I would be very pleased to move that,
It's moved by-
Mayor Ebbels.
Thank you, Councillor Salter. Moved, seconded by Councillor Grout. Any discussion, councillors? No discussions. I will put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Item 13, environmental sustainability. 13.1, local government power purchasing agreement for renewable energy. And welcome, Stuart Hanson.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the local government power purchase agreement tender process and to seek delegation for the CEO to enter into a contract with preferred tender or tenderer, subject to final offers being within the agreed financial limits. The local government power purchase agreement is a collaboration between 47 councils for the procurement of 100% renewable energy generated locally in Victoria. BoQ formally joined the buyers group to participate in the tender process in June 2020 for a proposed contract commencement date of 1 July 2021. Collectively, over 230 gigawatt hours per year has been nominated via this buyers group. The PPA will be the largest buyers group ever established in Australia by the number of organisations involved, and would be the single largest activity that any council group has ever undertaken to reduce emissions from council operations. So as detailed in this council report, the proposed power purchase agreement aligns closely with the council plan, particularly council's environmental sustainability strategic objective. And this is done through providing community leadership in reducing carbon emissions and by increasing and promoting the use of renewable energy. The recommendation of this report is that council resolves to delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to finalise and execute the retail supply agreement contracts for all council's market types on behalf of the Borough of Queenscliff, subject to the net present cost of the power purchase agreement offer being no more than the cost of business as usual based on the mid-renewable scenario as per relevant clauses set out in the project's participation deed. And secondly, receives subsequent report at the conclusion of the tendering process that provides an update on the outcomes of the project.
Thank you very much, Stuart. We have a recommendation there, councillors. Get someone to move the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Hewitt, seconded by Councillor Grugal. Thank you. Any discussion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say that the transition to 100% renewable energy is in line with the borough's declaration of a climate emergency and the fantastic work that has been done to date towards the proposed climate emergency response plan. I believe this is a great example of collaboration between councils, which is anticipated to provide a better overall financial outcome for all those participating compared to if the arrangements were individually negotiated. I'd like to thank the council officers for their work to date on this initiative, and I look forward to receiving their subsequent report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Any other discussion? There'd be no further discussion. I will put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Councillors, I do just want to go back to item 9.1.1 in regard to the petition in Councillor Salter's motion. Councillor Grugal, I've just noticed, so you didn't put your hand up. Were you in favour of the motion?
No, I wasn't.
So you wish to abstain?
No, I won't. I vote against it.
So that'll be recorded as Councillor Grugal voting against it. Thank you, Councillor Grugal. We now will move to item 14, Planning and Heritage, Planning Permit Activity Report, and welcome Dinah O'Brien. Hello, Dinah.
Hello, councillors. Hello, Mayor Ebbels. Evening to everybody. If I may present to you on page 39 of Council's agenda, the current tally of our summary of planning permit activities. So as you can see, we've got 14 current applications. One application is on hold at the request of the applicant. Since the last time we reported to you, Council, we've finalised 11 applications but received 16 more. So the total number of permit applications currently under consideration by the borough is 24. We've got 0 development plans in for review at the moment, but we've got 1 planning scheme amendment summary report. And it's the officer recommendation, Mayor Ebbels and councillors, that the planning permit activity report be received.
Thank you very much, Dinah. So the recommendation of the office is that the planning permit activity report be received. Can I get someone move firstly that we accept the report? Moved by Councillor Grout.
Yes, I move that.
Seconded by Councillor Salter. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, can I also move that council...
Sorry, Councillor Grout. I'll just get a vote on that one first, that we accept the report. All those in favour? Thank you. Back to you, Councillor Grout.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I want to also move that council receive briefings on the following applications because of community interest. So 2020/072, which is 82A and 82B Glenus Road, Point Lonsdale, and 2020/077, which is at 18 Cheshunt Street, Point Lonsdale.
Thank you very much, Councillor Grout. Can I have someone move? Sorry, second, Councillor Grout. Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Any further discussion in regard to those briefings? If not, no, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you very much. So moved. Item 14.2, planning permit application 220/0396 Beach Street, Queenscliff. And we're still in your hands, Dinah.
Thank you, Mayor Ebbels. If I may direct councillors' attention to page 47 of the agenda for this evening, this report relates specifically to a planning application 2020/039, which is for 6 Beach Street in Queenscliff. The purpose of this report is to actually present an assessment and a recommendation for the planning permit for 6 Beach Street. So if I may take you to page 52, probably an easier point to start is the application was lodged in July, on the 14th of July 2020, so last year. So the application that's before us seeks to obtain a planning permit for the following buildings and works. So demolition of an existing shed located in the northwest corner of the site, demolition of the existing garage, which is located in the southwest corner of the site, the deconstruction of the bungalow currently located approximately mid-block and abutting the northern boundary of the site, and the reconstruction of the same bungalow reduced in size in the southwest corner of the site, and that relocation would include restoration and painting. The construction of fencing, including gates along the western boundary of the site, and construction of a widened crossover from Bay Street, demolition of the northern and southern boundary fences and replacement of same. So we're talking about an approximately 300 square metre parcel that is located on the western side of Beach Street, which is in Fisherman's Flat. It runs between Beach Street and Bay Street, which is quite typical of the subdivision pattern of Fisherman's Flat. The demolition of the existing garage and shed and the construction of everything else is actually triggered by the heritage overlay and the design and development overlay in the scheme. Because it's triggered by the heritage overlay and given the sensitivities around Fisherman's Flat, council officers actually sought some independent heritage advice about the proposal and whether or not there would be support from an independent heritage advisor for the works as put forward in the planning application. Ultimately, the heritage advisor didn't provide any objection to the relocation of the bungalow. And I might take you back a couple of steps, I'm sorry, councillors. Really, the application and the contentious nature of the application boils down to one element. And that element is the bungalow deconstruction and relocation. Now, we know that that's contentious because we actually advertised the application and we received 10 objections. Council resolved to remove office delegation on this application, and that's actually why we're presenting it as a report to you this evening. The other key referral authority that wasn't really a formal referral authority, but council officers sought the advice of the Corangamite Catchment Management Authority. And on page 56 of your agenda, there's actually a screenshot of their response. And what has happened is because they're not a formal referral authority, their recommendations will be put into a permit should one be recommended to be issued this evening. So 10 objections. Ultimately, we can summarise those objections down to a key issue with the potential degradation or further degradation of the heritage values of Fisherman's Flat. As I indicated, councillors, we went to an independent heritage advisor and also relied to some extent on the advice that was actually provided with the application from another heritage advisor. And the recommendation that I put forward to you this evening is that council issue a notice of decision to issue a permit. And as you can see, if we go back to page 47, the recommendation that council officers have made in this report is that council grant or issue a notice of decision to grant a permit that is quite heavily conditioned. So those conditions I understand and take that councillors have read, but those conditions really are quite responsive to the concerns about the relocation of this bungalow. So if I may, councillors, if I can put the recommendation to you and ask for your feedback.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dinah. Councillors, we have a recommendation before us.
Well,
Councillor
Mr. Mayor, I wish to move the following motion.
Certainly, go ahead.
The council, having caused notice of planning application number 2020/039 to be given under section 52 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987 and the Queenscliff Planning Scheme, and having considered all the matters required under section 60 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, decides to refuse to grant a permit under the provisions of clause 43.01 and 43.02 of the Queenscliff Planning Scheme in respect of the land known and described as 6 Beach Street, Queenscliff. for the demolition of outbuildings, garage and shed, removal, repositioning, restoration and painting of an outbuilding, a former fisherman's cottage, construction of side and rear boundary fences, and construction of a double vehicle crossover in a heritage overlay area in accordance with the plans submitted with the application. It was dated 14th July 2020, and it's for the following reasons. First, the relocation of the former fisherman's cottage will detract from the original heritage context of the land and building through modification and change in location contrary to the heritage overlay. And second, the relocation will likely result in significant changes to the size, fabric, appearance, cultural and historic significance of the building, contrary to the objectives of the heritage overlay clause 22.02. And third, the relocation of the building detracts from the original fisherman's flat features, contrary to clause 22.01/1 fisherman's flat.
Thank you very much, Councillor Grout. So that is the motion now. Do I have a seconder for that motion? That's seconded by Councillor Salter. Any discussion, councillors?
Yes, can
Councillor
I
Grout.
talk to the motion?
Yes, you can.
I'd just like to add this. I think the current structure and physical location of the former fisherman's cottage is part of the historic and social value as Fisherman's Flat and contributes to the streetscape of Bay Street. We must emphasise that this building is not unimportant. It was an actual fisherman's cottage with that provenance in the Fisherman's Flat Urban Conservation Precinct. It is one of the few surviving such cottages. To recognise this heritage, we have to be able to conserve this building as it is and where it is.
Thank you, Councillor Grout. Councillors, any other discussion? Councillor Salter?
So this has been a most interesting project and process. And for me, I can only say this is a profound learning about why we are undertaking the heritage review of the whole town. So in the previous council, we finished Heritage Review Part 1, and we are undertaking Heritage Review Part 2. And this clearly demonstrates that we need to look at these little buildings as part of Heritage Review Part 2. I am delighted to be seconding this motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Salter. Councillors, any other discussion from councillors? Anyone else? No, thank you. I will put it to the vote. All those in favour of the motion? Right. It's all in favour. Thank you very much, councillors, and thank you very much, Councillor Grout. Item 15, governance and performance. 15.1, the council plan 2017-2021 quarterly report against the implementation plan as at 31st December 2020. I will hand this over to our CEO, Martin Gill. Thank you, Martin.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We don't really have a lot to add to the report itself. Just to note that we're still travelling quite well in terms of meeting our commitments under the council plan. And I think on page 74 and 75 of the agenda item, there's some good visual diagrams setting out how we're travelling. So one thing that we did not achieve is one of our initiatives in the local economy, and we'll continue to work on that. But through the report, there's some explanations about why we didn't achieve. So rather than running through it all, I do commend the report to you and the recommendation that's on page 72.
Thank you very much, Mr. CEO. Council, we have a recommendation there. Can I get someone to move that recommendation? It's moved by Councillor Salter, seconded by Councillor Grout. Thank you. Just before putting it to the vote, Mr. CEO, I just note that the two items that weren't achieved were mainly to do with the relocation of the hub at the moment, with information centre and library being at the Old Vic Tavern site. So I guess they're perfectly understandable.
Yeah, we never like to make excuses, but in this case, there were some pretty clear reasons why we couldn't achieve that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So can I
Councillor
just make a comment there,
Sure.
Mayor Ebbels? I mean, I think it is very great credit to the staff that towards the end of COVID, which is when this period is, that we got back on track very quickly. I do understand that our local economy is still recovering, but in many other areas, we got back on the get-go pretty quickly. And, you know, huge congratulations to everyone in the organisation for that, because COVID has been a huge weight on not just our local economy, but the state and the nation.
So thank you, Councillor Salter. Sorry, I was on mute there as the dogs were barking.
No, you were trying to put me on mute. I know.
Again, not again. Councillors, any further discussion in regards to the quarterly report? No, if not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Good.
Thank you. So moved. Thank you. So we move to item 15.2, quarterly financial report as of the 31st of December 2020. And we welcome our Manager of Financial Services, Gihan. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, councillors. The purpose of this report is to provide information on council's financial performance for the 6 months to 31st December 2020 and year-end position expected to be achieved at 30th June 2021. As mentioned on the page 81 of the agenda, the forecast cash result is a deficit of 256,000 for the year, a decrease of 73,000 on the budgeted cash deficit. This net decrease mainly reflects projected savings from recurring operating expenses, savings from capital project completed during the period, and additional income from the sale of motor vehicle after the additional budget allocations listed on the page 81 of the agenda. The forecast underlying result for the year is a deficit of 1.1 million. Again, a reduction of 190,000 against the budget, mainly due to the impact of operating project carried over from 2019-20 being partially offset by the projected savings from recurring operating expenses. One of the key objectives in Council's strategic resource plan is the achievement of a break-even underlying results cumulatively. The forecast accumulated underlying surplus stand at 1.2 million at 30th June 2021. Total financial assets, that is including cash and cash equivalent, as at 31st December 2020 is 9.7 million, which mainly consists of grant money received in advance. Council settled in full the existing loan and currently has zero debt on the balance sheet. And at the same time, Council is not planning for any new borrowing for the current financial year. During the last 6 months, 1.3 million has been spent in capital project against the forecast 7.7 million for the full financial year. The inclusion of new road projects totaling to 1.1 million, which are 100% grant funded, is the most significant change incorporated into the Q2 financial results. These projects have been identified in line with the conditions stipulated in the Commonwealth Road Safety Funding Program, and all funds under this program need to be spent before 30th June 2021. Councillors, the explanations for key variance against the budget are included at Appendix 2A. Further, as summarized on the page 82 of the agenda, based on the WAGO financial sustainability indicators, Council will continue to be considered low risk in all but 2 indicators for 2020-21 financial year. Adjusted underlying result as mentioned earlier, even though an underlying deficit is forecasted for the year, the forecast accumulated underlying surplus stand at 1.2 million at June 2021. Internal financing ratio, most of the capital expenditure included in the 2021 forecast is funded through money held in reserve and capital grant to be received. As a result, it has an impact on the internal financing ratio as summarized against those VAGO sustainability indicators. If you move further down, in relation to the local government performance reporting framework, under this framework, as provided at the Appendix 2B, there are 24 qualitative measures to assess the soundness of the governance and management framework of the borough. So as summarized there, all these requirements are expected to be achieved by the year end. Further, there are 27 applicable quantitative measures to assess sustainable capacity, service performance, and financial performance of the borough as given at the Appendix 2C. So as summarized in that Appendix 2C, data is not still available to report against 2 service performance indicators. Except for those 2, borough is well within the expected range for all the other reported indicators, except for 1. Again, that is in relation to the adjusted underlying result, which we have already looked at and which is still justifiable. In summary, the impact of the outbreak of the COVID-19, especially in Victoria, especially on the operations of the caravan park, have been reviewed, but required no adjustment to the target set in the budget. As at in December, the borough has met the income target set for the caravan park. Officers will continue to monitor development about the outbreak with any further changes to be reported to the council as and when required. The recommendation before you tonight, councillors, is set out on the page 80 of the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gahan, for an excellent report as always. Councillors, we do have a recommendation there. Can I get someone to move the motion? It's moved by Councillor Salter, seconded by Councillor Hewitt. Thank you. Any discussion, councillors? No, you've got off lightly tonight, Gahan. Thank you very much. Councillors, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Thank you, Gahan. Councillors, item 15.3, review of council policies. We have a few policies there. I will hand over to our Executive Project Officer and Manager Financial Services, Philip Carruthers. Thank you, Philip.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to consider 5 revised council policies. The first is discretionary reserves, where the title has been changed to general reserve, and we've set a minimum of $500,000, which is sufficient to cover 1 month's cash operating expenses. We've set a minimum allocation for transfer to the asset replacement reserve of $45,000. We've set specific guidelines about transferring funds out from the reserve accounts, and we've required reporting quarterly to council on material forecast adjustments. The second is borrowings. There's the introduction of borrowing ratios and limits, and the limits specified in the policy will ensure the maximum exposure to borrowing will be at $1 million at any given point in time. And the proposed limit will ensure that maximum debt servicing costs will be within the additional rates revenue estimated on an average rate increase of 2%. The third is vegetation vandalism, which has a minor update to change the reference to the local law. The fourth is memorial and plaques, which is a minor update to the definition of a public place. And the fifth is the child safety statement, which affirms the borough's commitment to child safety, and there's a number of key wording changes included in that. The recommendation to adopt the policies is at the bottom of page 86.
Thank you very much, Philip. I get a mover for that. Moved by Councillor Salter, seconded by, do I have a seconder? Councillor Grout. Thank you. Councillors, any discussion? Councillor Salter? So you're still on mute, Councillor Salter?
Me being on mute. Now, mate, are you hearing me now?
Yep, thank you.
All right. So on the number 5, CP045, child safety statement, I believe all the councillors got sent an email which details a couple of minor points to be amended in here. So in the 3rd dot point under the statement to read, ensuring the systems are in place to identify risk and protect children from abuse, and all allegations and concerns are taken seriously, respond to expeditiously and in consistent manner, and here's the extra bit, and will be promptly reported to the appropriate authorities. Sort of a follow on from this week, really. And the 4th dot point under statement to read, ensuring we foster an environment of openness which encourages and supports children and adults to safely disclose risks or incidents of harm or abuse in the knowledge their concerns will be taken seriously, investigated and responded to appropriately, and this is the extra bit, and will be promptly reported to appropriate authorities. So I'm moving that recommendation with those 2 extra bits added in.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Salter. Do we have a, so that's the motion now. Councillor Hewitt,
Yep.
would like to, I just need a second. Someone, Councillor Hewitt, you're happy to second that motion? Yep. Councillors, would anyone like to speak to the motion?
Actually, could we defer it and let's have a little bit more time to fully sort of consider Councillor Salter's amendments?
So why would you be debating whether it gets properly debated?
It would have been nice to be informed earlier of it from you, Councillor Salter.
So I will refer back to
Well,
Mr. Carruthers. So can we possibly adopt the policies 1, 2, 3, and 4 and
without the
defer item number 5?
Yes, that's fine, Mr. Mayor.
So I will need to get someone to move that motion. I can't move it. So Councillor Grigard, you're happy to move that motion?
Yes, thank you.
So the motion will be that the council adopt the following revised council policies as presented. Items 1, 2, 3, and 4, but not include item 5 in that motion.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, because you have a motion on the table, a motion to amend the motion.
Yeah, sorry. So that is a motion to amend Councillor Salter's motion. So the amended motion has been moved. Do we have a seconder for that amended motion? So there's no seconder for the amended motion. So we now refer back to the original motion, which was Councillor Salter's, with those changes as outlined. Do I have a seconder for that motion?
You've got it.
We did have one. Yeah, Councillor Hewitt. So all those in favour of the motion? Sorry. And against?
I'll abstain.
Thank you. Jackie, you'll note that Councillor Grigard has abstained. The motion is passed. Thank you very much. Sure. Item 15.4, Local Law General 2021, Mr. Carruthers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to enable Council to declare General Local Law 2021 after calling for submissions in accordance with Section 223 of the Local Government Act 1989 and receiving final advice from council's lawyers. The authority for council to make local laws is framed within the context of the Local Government Act. Legislative changes to the Local Government Act in 2020 meant that council has introduced new governance rules which address the conduct of council meetings and the election of mayor, amongst other things. Local Law Number 1, 2010, processes of municipal government, mostly was incorporated into the new governance rules. Therefore, it was determined to make one new general local law, which consisted primarily of the expired Local Law Number 2, 2010, with some amendments, and included the use of the common seal. A draft was advertised and feedback was sought, with 22 submissions being received across two consultation processes. The majority of the submissions have been incorporated, and the recommendation is on page 92.
Thank you very much, Philip. Councillors, do we have a mover for the recommendation? Move Councillor Salter, seconded by, do we have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Grout, thank you very much. Any discussion in regard to the Local Law General 2021? No discussion. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? So moved. Thank you very much. Thank you, Philip. And you're here again, Philip, 15.5, Councillor Code of Conduct. We'll hand it back to you, Philip.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is for the council to consider and adopt CP 005, Councillor Code of Conduct, following the 2020 general election in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government Act 2020 and the Local Government Governance and Integrity Regulations 2020. Section 139 brackets 1 of the Act requires each council to develop a councillor code of conduct, and it has to be reviewed and adopted by council within 4 months of a general election, which relevantly here is the 24th of February this year. Section 139(2) provides that the purpose of the councillor code of conduct is to include the standards of conduct expected to be observed by councillors in the course of performing their duties and functions as councillors, including prohibiting discrimination, harassment, and vilification. This code of conduct is intended to set a high standard of conduct in order to ensure good governance and increase public confidence in the administration of council. Council must resolve to adopt the Code of Conduct with or without amendments at this meeting to ensure that the Councillor Code of Conduct is reviewed and adopted by Council by the 24th of February. And the recommendation is at the bottom of page 96.
Thank you, Philip. We do have a recommendation there, councillors. Can I get someone move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Hewitt. Seconded. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Salter. Any discussion, councillors, in regards to the Councillor Code of Conduct? No discussion. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you, Philip. Councillors, item 15.6, Reform Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee. I will hand this one over to the CEO, Martin Gill. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you'll note in the report, there's been some legislative changes to the Emergency Management Legislation Amendment Act, which requires council to disestablish the current Municipal Emergency Planning Committee and to re-establish under the Act a new committee. What we've done in the lead up to this is we've spoken to the committee and we've organised who will be on the committee that's required as part of the legislation. And this is simply a formal process that we need to go through. So the recommendations there on page 100, and we will continue to move forward with this committee that serves us very well, and we're looking forward to catching up with them again in March.
Okay, thank you very much, Martin. Councillors, there is a officer recommendation. I'm going to get someone move the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Hewitt, seconded. Councillor Grout, thank you very much. Any discussion, councillors? No, thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? It's all in favour. Thank you very much. Move to item 15.7, appointment of portfolio councillor to the Geelong Heritage Centre Collection Advisory Committee. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, we have opportunities to participate in a number of these committees, and the report for you is seeking a recommendation from the councillors about a councillor to serve on this important committee that's linked to the Geelong Regional Library. And so I think the councillors have probably read the report, so it's really up to the councillors to draw the straws and see who would like to participate in that committee. So the recommendations there on page 107 for the councillor to consider.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Councillor Salter.
I should be delighted to nominate Councillor Grout for this very charming position.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Can I accept the nomination? I think it's important to share heritage knowledge and resources with the Geelong Heritage Centre. It can only benefit our museums and there's potentially our residents and visitors here.
Thank you.
I think it's great.
Thank you, Councillor Grout. We have a move. Do we have a seconder for that motion? That's seconded by Councillor Grugau. Any further discussion, Councillor Grout? No. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, all those in favour, councillors? Thank you all. Thank you very much. And congratulations, Councillor Grout. Item 16, authorisation of signing and seal of documents. No reports to consider. Questions without notice. 17.1, questions without notice status update. There are no questions without notice outstanding. 17.2, questions without notice. Councillors, do we have any questions without notice? So there's no questions without notice. Thank you very much. Item 18, we have a list of council meetings, planning review meeting if required on the Wednesday, the 10th of March. And our next ordinary council meeting will be on Wednesday, the 24th of March. And hopefully we will be in the town hall. Fingers crossed. Thank you. Item 19, closed session of meeting. Offers a recommendation that in accordance with section 66(1) and 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020, the meeting be closed to members of the public for the consideration of the following confidential items. 19.1, confirmation of the 16th December 2020 confidential council meeting minutes. Councillors, there is a recommendation there that we do close the meeting to the public. Can I get someone move that motion? Moved by Councillor Hewitt. Seconded by Councillor Grugau. Thank you. All those in favour?